Any scuba diving movie about Cape Ann that doesn't start at Folly Cove will have a lot of catching up to do. Rick Tajero has taught scuba at Back Beach since the Ice Age. He is an original part of this place. More walk-in entries are made at Back Beach than are made anywhere else on Cape Ann. The docks of the Cape Ann Marina have been home to some of the finest scuba charter boats of the region. Easy Diver has been birthed here for the last 35 years. Customers can enjoy our clean showers and toilet facilities before and after the trip. Easy Diver rests quiet at J-Dock. Chris and Dave Norman enjoy some quiet before the scuba folk arrive. Today, Mike and Heidi are the informal students of Dave Norman. The gear does look complicated, but most of that has to do with the waterproof housing that the gear is in. Although there's an unlimited amount of photo stuff, good photographers recognize that you can't take it all in the water at once. Kevin Mordaski treks his dive gear to the boat. Kathy was on this shoot. All aboard, the gear's stowed, and Tinkerbell waves goodbye to J-Dock as Easy Diver clears her slip. With Pat at the helm, our boat makes the open drawbridge and glides out into Gloucester Harbor. It's a beautiful day for boating, diving, and movie making. The customers mingle on the open deck and plan their destination. Thatcher Island's dead light stands sentinel steady on the rock that is the island. Easy Diver is anchored. Al's got most of his scuba gear rig bolted up. Here's Peter's plunge. Backwards. Dave is unmistakable in his red suit. There is more than one way to get into and under the water. Here's a prize waiting to be discovered. Mike and Heidi, strolling the bottom, have their eyes set on finding a keeper. Now, there's a likely place, and they hurry to hunt. A lot of dust is raised, and so isn't the lobster. With claws flailing away, this one's in a family way. Proud to see their catch, but mindful of the rules, they put the egger back where it belongs. There'll be other ones, kids. Big Heidi gestures. Here is an intent and successful scuba, with catch bag, poker gauge, and lobster in hand, and we just got started. Chris has an eye for fish, and her camera is aimed at one, although right now all we see is a crab. In broad daylight there are invisible fish who steal their lunch. It is a challenge to see this guy. Whoa! Even the crab was startled. Kevin and Lindsley, two excellent scuba divers from Connecticut, cruise the bottom, exploring the wonders of Cape Ann marine life and terrain. With at least 2 cameras working on a set-up shot, the combined footage of this team of videographer divers pays off with this sequence of a rose sculpin. Dave Norman readies himself for an interesting shot you can never plan for. Squid eggs, laid in a cluster, are camouflaged in a kelp bush. They resemble a bouquet centerpiece bathed in the cool, clean water of Cape Ann. The squid eggs are firmly rooted and can withstand considerable surge. We never see them being laid down, and we never see them being molested by other fish or animals. Chris aims her camera at a lone urchin on a rock. The essential steady camera allows for careful study of these prickly fellas. The principal difference between a well-made movie and a so-called home movie is that the well-made one is of scenes shot by cameras that seldom, if ever, move. And that's the secret. Dave has his lights on and captures an erupting skate. Skates are harmless, but they can startle the daylights out of you. Settling down, Dave gets this excavator crab in his sights. An eel pout in the comfortable waters off Lanesville shore is an ideal subject for Dave Norman. In all things, Dave is careful and complete, and his excellent photography reflects this. There are, about any picture, several almost indescribable features, those things hard to put your finger on, that separate a run-of-the-mill shot from an outstanding photograph. Here we have a subject that can move at any time. Here we have a subject that isn't getting paid to sit still. Here's a clear water setup of anemones in a seawater breeze, fully unfurled and flowering. Al's in the thick of lobster country. Lobster hunters have a process to go through. First they have to find one, then they have to get it to hand, and that's only the beginning. Any lobster must be of legal size. Al has a gauge for that. Then the bug must not be in a family way. No eggs. Then there are a couple of subtle things to check out. In the midst of this procedure, Al has discovered a leak. This is not a particularly serious happening, but any steady stream of air from wherever will warrant a repair session eventually. A lot of pros go in with rigs that effervesce. The captain's criterion is, if you can hear it and it disturbs the neighbors, get it fixed. The contractor crab continues to dig despite Dave's efforts to immortalize him. Decorator crabs, also called spider crabs, when fully decked out, pajama about slowly, hardly giving their location away. This one hangs on to the weeds like a circus acrobat and makes his way across the overhang's growth. Here's a field of urchins wearing hats. Two puzzles here. Why do they do it? And how do they do it? Fish in a feeding tizzy make short work of an unlucky urchin. Fish are always about looking and eating. Sliding down the rock, the doomed urchin is lost in a fury of fins. At the bottom of the pecking order, a crab politely eats in peace. Here's a big clam, not out for a stroll, but enjoying a relaxing moment, as clams do. Clams are filter feeders. They pass a lot of water through themselves and filter out the tiny food morsels. They are feeding most of the time, even when they're posing for their picture. They never seem to be out of breath. On the other hand, crabs have to work at it nearly all the time. At times, Dave wears a set of doubles, a cool looking rig to be sure, and one that offers photographers a long session underwater. Now, if the suit will just keep him warm enough, that'll be great. To get a flounder head on, the trick is to not exhale. In fact, you shouldn't inhale either. The bubbles and the noise would have had this guy long gone long ago. Talking about perspective, some man-made objects lend perfect perspective to a scene. Here's a crab wondering how a lobster got itself into such a fix. Here's an interesting setup shot. Focused on one subject, the lobster pot, the camera pans right and then dollies in on the videographer who is concentrating on a beady-eyed crab hunkered down in the sand. Their color and the texture of their bodies makes some crabs nearly impossible to see to casual observers. Dave Norman is positioning himself for a sculpin shot. And here's the sculpin. These guys are not the greatest disguise artists in the world of fish, but they do work at hiding in the weeds and the kelp. Intuitively, they seem to know that they are less obvious if they don't move too much. A background of swaying kelp leads to a cluster of urchins. The flash from Dave's lights might be noticed by the urchins, but there's nothing slower on the uptake than a bunch of urchins. It's impossible to tell when they're sleeping and when they're not. Linda and Myanna cavort before the camera. They're in a good mood. Must have had a great day at lobstering, eh? Back at the boat, banding goes on. The legal ones are cinched up and readied for the trip home. Scubas chat all the time, and the customers of Easy Diver are no exception. This day, the diving's been exceptional. Mike and Heidi won't forget that great big lobster for a long, long time. An easy glide through the cut bridge brings us home. There is nothing that can compare to a Cape Ann sunset.